IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Jaya Bachchan, member of Rajya Sabha, elected in 2004, was disqualified in 2006 because she was appointed as the chairperson of the UP Film Development Council. What's going on? Hello and welcome to The Longest Constitution. My name is Priya Mirza, and every week we look into how the Constitution shapes our lives. And this season is about work. And we are starting off today with members of Parliament who are elected for a 5-year period, but are also accountable during that time frame. So we are getting into really prime, juicy area about government and governance. How do our representatives function? What rights do they have? And what are the laws which regulate them? And that's the core of politics: power and the constitutional restraints on its exercise, and the negotiations between them. And the pressing question through the centuries is qui custodio ipso custodis. Pardon my Latin, but the question is, who will guard the gods? That was a good question, Juvenal, ancient Roman philosopher. Keep it up, boy. And that is the ultimate test of power, isn't it? Are the powerful accountable or not? So our first story today is in the state of Bihar. The year is 1957. And in the Bihar Legislative Assembly, the Chief Minister, Krishna Sinha, was attacked in a vitriolic speech. It was a bitter, nasty attack. So nasty that the speaker ordered that part of the speech be expunged. I love the word expunge because it reminds me of a sponge, which is to wipe away, mop up, and remove. But that speech was made, wasn't it? And that was the solemn truth. So, do parliamentarians' privileges extend to altering the truth? Now, Article 19 of our Constitution grants people the fundamental right to expression. And a guy's got to do what a guy's got to do. And MSM Sharma did just that. Journalist and editor of Searchlight, which was a really well-known English daily newspaper in Bihar, Sharma went ahead and published the entire unexpunged speech. क्या शर्मा जी की ये मजाल गुस्ताख. In 1958, a notice was served to Sharma calling upon him to show cause establishing why appropriate action should not be recommended against him for breach of privilege of the speaker and the assembly in respect of the offending publication. And we saw how in the previous episode, how Homi Mistry argued that fundamental rights could not in fact be trumped in favor of the privileges a MLA has. And the court agreed that citizens' rights come before the privileges of a parliamentarian. And if you haven't heard that one, run along and go listen. It's just 10 minutes. Because wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Maybe or maybe not. And with that, we go back to Jaya Bachchan, who found herself disqualified. Kyun bhaiya? So Article 102 of the Constitution lists 6 grounds for disqualifications for being a member of Parliament. And the first one is, ta-ta-da, if he holds any office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state other than the office declared by Parliament not to disqualify its holder. Hey, what does that mean? It basically means that you cannot be an MP and receive benefits from the government by holding another office. So the independence of the legislator is paramount, and holding another office would affect the independence and therefore becomes a ground for disqualification. So the idea is that legislators should be able to carry out their parliamentary duties in a free manner without any interference. So you, in fact, can be running a business or making money, but an office of profit specifically means a government office. Anyway, what did Jaya Bachchan do? She invoked Article 32 and challenged her disqualification as a Rajya Sabha MP in court. And this was her argument. You know what? I don't know what the big deal is, but I ain't getting much here anyway. So, as the chairperson of the UP Film Development Council, she was entitled to an honorarium of rupees 5,000 per month, a daily allowance of rupees 600, 10,000 per month towards entertainment expenditure, a staff car with a driver and telephones. That's telephones, okay, not the latest iPhone. A bodyguard and a night escort, amongst other things. All that I definitely wouldn't mind. And maybe a foot massage too. Is that possible? But on a serious note, all this clearly came under the definition of holding an office of profit because this was under a state government. And it included pay, salary, emolument, remuneration, and therefore amounted to holding an office of profit. But Jaya Bachchan's point was that it was an honorarium and she wasn't really drawing it and she really wasn't using it. Okay, with that, let's get to the third bit for today's episode: local government and representatives. So you would remember that the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments introduced panchayats and municipalities into our constitution. Now, the most significant aspect of these amendments is that they do not, in fact, create self-government, but rather local representative bodies and leave the question of delegating powers and functions to these bodies to state legislatures. So while the Panchayati Raj amendments for the first time made it mandatory for the election of local representatives, it also granted enormous powers to state legislative assemblies to make rules and regulations around that. So, Samba, kitne bacche the? This sarkar wants only 2 children. What am I talking about? So in the previous episode, we looked at educational qualifications imposed by Rajasthan in Panchayat elections in 2016, when in fact MLAs and MPs do not require any educational qualifications. But much before that, Rajasthan introduced the 2-child norm for elections to panchayats and municipalities in 1992, which basically meant that if you have more than 2 children, then you're disqualified from holding that position. And this was dutifully followed by Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Orissa, Himachal Pradesh, MP, Maharashtra, and Chhattisgarh, all in the name of population control and, of course, national interest. So, for a law which aims to empower and enable access to political power to millions of people, it also imposes peculiar barriers to accessing those very offices. So, basically, these laws disqualify a person for having more than 2 living children from holding an office in a panchayat. Now, this was challenged on the grounds that it violated not only Article 14, but Javed, the petitioner in the state of Haryana, argued that as a Muslim, it violated his religious freedom guaranteed under Article 25 of the Constitution. And there were hundreds of petitions filed by sarpanches, up-sarpanches, and village panchayat members challenging the Haryana Panchayati Raj Amendment Act 1994. Meanwhile, in Jaya Bachchan versus Union of India 2006, the court ruled the fact that Jaya Bachchan is affluent or not interested in the benefits given by the state government are not relevant. The question whether she actually received any pecuniary gain or not is of no consequence. And disqualification was upheld. And what happened to Sharma ji versus Sinha ji? In MSM Sharma versus Krishna Sinha 1958, the apex court ruled that while privileges were special, fundamental rights are general, and therefore a citizen's fundamental rights could be curtailed and rejected Sharma's petition. Oh. And finally, in Javed versus State of Haryana 2003, the Supreme Court of India upheld the two-child norm for contesting in Panchayat elections. So, today's takeaway is Jaya Bachchan learned that life is about kabhi khushi, kabhi gum, and was disqualified. But can the powerful really be penalized? No. Our glorious parliament has found a way to combat disqualifications under the Office of Profit Caveat. And takeaway number two, the Searchlight case, as it is called, put MLA's privileges before citizens' rights. But not to worry, this was Searchlight Case Part 1, and we will be doing the second part in the next episode. Hang in there, kiddos. And finally, in 2019, the Congress government removed the educational qualifications to contest in Panchayat elections, but the two-child norm continues in many states. I hope you like the show. If you have questions or comments, please send them in on Twitter, where I tweet at FundamentallyP, or on Instagram, The Longest Constitution. Until next time, this is me, Priya Mirza, signing out.
Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to artist manager Ayushman Sinha about what it's like managing a musician in the age of social media. On The Wire Talks, Siddharth learns about the rise and fall of the Sassoon dynasty from Professor Joseph Sassoon. On Audio Gyan, Kedar talks to co-founders Dakshayani and Mandar about their NGO Baithak Foundation. On Audio Gyan, Kedar talks to co-founders Dakshayani and Mandar about their NGO Baithak Foundation. On Marathi Khidkitun, the Deshmukhs speak to Jairaj Salgaonkar, Managing Director of Kal Nirnay, about Almanac Publishing. And on Big Talks about Tiny Humans, Devi Shobha and Meghna share strategies to deal with sibling rivalry. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show, or any of our other shows for that matter, do tell a friend. It really helps us out a lot. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on, and you can also check us out on YouTube. We are also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcasts. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.